podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AEye Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AEye Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AEye Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to AEye Scouted on Anfield Index Pro. I'm Dave Hendrick, joined as always by Mr. Karl Matchett. How are you, sir?
7 out of 10. What about you?
Well, I'm about a 3 out of 10, but then I'm not going on my second holiday of the year tomorrow. So, it's understandable that I wouldn't be as good as you.
Nor am I, so I don't know what you're on about.
You were just in Spain. You have returned to the UK. And now you're going to Mexico. That's two holidays.
No,
absolutely a holiday.
No. Not having that.
Absolutely a holiday. This is your second. If you'd gone directly from Spain to Mexico, we would only count that as one holiday.
Even though we work in both locations.
Work is a big stretch for what you to be doing.
I mean, that's absolutely outrageous.
Listen, it is what it is. Speaking of outrageous, Karl, we'll get on to Marco Silva and his Lego head in a while. But we should quickly touch on a few other bits and bobs. So let's start with last night. Chelsea going to the Great White North, just round the corner from Guy Drinkle, and taking part in a football, ice hockey type of hybrid sport in the Carabao Cup against Middlesbrough. Borough winning 1-0 through a Hayden Hackney goal. Do you think there's a possibility that they can hold that lead through the second leg and advance, and that will be them waiting for us at Wembley rather than Todd Bowley's circus?
Well, it's possible, of course, because they're leading. They have something to hold on to, and if we've seen how teams fight when they have something to hold on to from an early lead in a one-off match. If they do manage to get themselves ahead just in a league game, so when you're talking about a cup final, a trip to Wembley, everything else, it just magnifies everything. So they'll not just be having the game of their season. For many of those players, it will actually be the game of their careers up until that point. The same can be said of manager, obviously, Michael Carrick, who, if he does get to Wembley with Middlesbrough, you can arguably say that Man United's caretaker boss, who they let go after what was a very short but actually quite decent little stint with them when he was there, would then have outperformed all the managers and the interim managers and caretaker managers and all the rest of them that they've actually appointed before, during and around him, which would be quite interesting to note. I don't expect that they will, but they could, because I don't mean this like ridiculously derogatory. I just mean it in a literal sense, because it's Chelsea. And what I mean by that is that Chelsea still don't really have a very, very cohesive, coherent way of playing. They make a lot of chances, like loads of chances. I think in the Premier League, it's only Liverpool who make more chances than Chelsea. But Chelsea's end product, the connection in the penalty box, is not really very good. And obviously they have a lot of players who are very, very hit and miss with their finishing. That's been the case for some of them throughout their careers, for some of them just this season in particular. So it's very, very much going to depend, I think, on whether basically any of Chelsea's players bring their shooting boots. They definitely have enough goal scorers in their team to score once. But do they have the absolute conviction at the other end to keep Borough out as well?
This is the thing.
Yeah, I still think it's slightly weighted in Chelsea's favour, but it's not a big weighting, in my opinion, like it would be normally when you get teams of that standard from one league and the next one playing each other.
Yeah, the only thing I'd correct you on is you said that their attackers were hit and miss, and of course you meant miss and miss. because these boys wouldn't score if they were there till Christmas. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. Borough can go there, park up multiple buses, invite Chelsea on, and look to hit them on the counter. And Chelsea are going to have to commit bodies forward, which means they're going to have to leave Thiago Silva with large areas of space to try and defend. And if Borough can get pace in and around him, they will have success. They will get opportunities. Now, it might be that they get 2-3 opportunities in the 90 minutes, but all it would take is them to get one, put it in the back of the net, and all of a sudden now Chelsea need 2 goals just to force extra time. And this Chelsea team, as we've seen, has struggled to score goals, not just under Maurizio Pochettino, but under Graham Potter, under Thomas Tuchel, under Frank Lampard. Chelsea have not been a strong attacking outfit in a number of years now. And especially with Nicholas Jackson up front, who he does all of the other stuff well, but he's not good at putting the ball in the back of the net, unless it's a 3-yard tap-in against 9 men. Really impressed with Borough last night. I'm really impressed with Michael Carrick. I know they're not having the best of seasons, but I do think he's got something about him. I think he's a level above your Gerrards, Lampards and Rooneys without question as a manager. And I think it's hilarious that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was so tactically dreadful while having Michael Carrick and Kieran McKenna sat on the bench next to him, both of whom are proving themselves to be very promising, in Kieran McKenna's case, maybe the most promising young managers in the English game. Moving on from there then, we played Arsenal at the weekend and we beat them 2-0. We were lucky to get home. I'm surprised you haven't taken to higher ground, given London has been flooded with the tears of Arsenal fans screaming and shouting and pulling on their own testicles to demand that everybody respect the fact that they battered us in the first half. But yet the scoreline at half-time was 0-0 and the final score was 2-0 to Liverpool. So for all the battering, we won the game without any massive scares. They had 1 or 2, obviously, big moments, but you always felt like we were in control of those situations, or I did anyway. We advanced to the 4th round of the FA Cup, and we will host either Norwich or Bristol Rovers. Now, Norwich fans on social media, Karl, they're already suggesting that their team should lose to Bristol and save themselves coming all the way to Liverpool just to get a hiding. Bristol Rovers fans are very excited about the opportunity to potentially get to go to Anfield for the first time in 32 years. And of course, the last time they came to Anfield was the 4th round of the FA Cup in 1992. And the FA Cup winners that year were, of course, Graham Souness's Liverpool. What did you make of the draw for Liverpool? And what do you make of the draw as a whole? Because City have to travel to Spurs. There's obviously been some sort of mix-up there. I assume they'll rectify that. And it will be City against, Burton Albion's reserves or something. And Spurs will take on another Premier League team. And then Chelsea versus Villa. So a couple of big guns definitely going out in round 4.
Yeah, I mean, I'm tempted to discuss the 1992 FA Cup final 4th round draw rather than our one in the current season, to be perfectly honest, because I really, really enjoyed that run to the final. And of course, we did win an opening round for us, 3rd round, away from home with a clean sheet that year as well, which is one that lives a long, long time in the memory for me personally. John Barnes' hat-trick at Crewe, anybody? That was the good start of a run in the Cup. I mean, obviously, I have a bit of a connection with Norwich, coming from that sort of that direction corner of the world, and loads of my mates are Norwich season ticket holders and all that kind of thing. I did actually have one of them excitedly text me to arrange some plans for a night in Norwich and go to the game and stuff, only to be pointed out that actually Liverpool are at home for the match, so that was that. Shows about as much as they do pay attention to a lot of the football, though, if I'm being perfectly honest. And exactly the same sort of thing to the reaction that you mentioned. I do sometimes find that Norwich in particular are an odd club who the fans seem to think that they should spend more because they do make quite a lot of money from the sales of the youth players and that kind of thing. But then when they actually have the opportunity to do bigger things, still have a very, very small club mentality. And I do find that at the match, in the ground, with the fans, talking to them, all that kind of thing. So I personally hope we play Norwich just because I'm selfish like that. But I don't really care because we're at home and it's a lower league club and we should win easily either way. And we have bigger things on our agenda than a fourth round match against the lower league opposition. Whichever of those two clubs we play, it will basically be a game to, and this sounds extremely disrespectful, and probably it is, but again, it speaks to the fact that we've got other things to do this year, just to get it out of the way, basically. And
play some of the young players.
Yes, basically that. I think it's going to be quite important that we are very, very sensible about our lineup, especially the other games which happen to be around that match. So I look forward to it because I love the cup runs and everything, but it is going to be right at that point, fourth on the agenda. There's no two ways about it, basically.
Because it's the furthest one out in terms of the cups.
Yeah.
And obviously the league has to take precedence as well.
Yeah.
It does come 3 days after we play the second leg against Fulham in the EFL Cup, and obviously we'll get on to the first leg.
Could be bumped up to third, but hopefully not.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Hopefully not. Hopefully we are heading for our first final of the year.
Do you think in the draw they just read out the balls wrong? Because Man City are away to Spurs, but Man United are away to Newport or Eastleigh. Do you think they just got the names wrong there? The City.
I don't know. United do tend to get some very, very soft draws as well. I would draw your attention to last season when Manchester United were chasing the historic treble under Eric Ten Hag, and in the EFL Cup, they of course won the competition with Aston Villa at home when Villa were crap, Burnley at home, lower league, Charlton at home, lower league, Nottingham Forest in the semi-final, and the home leg second, which is the preferable draw, and then Newcastle in the final without a goalkeeper. In the FA Cup, they got Everton at home, lower league Reading at home, West Ham at home, Fulham at home, and then obviously Brighton at a neutral venue before losing to Manchester City. So they did get cupcake runs in the Cups last season as well. But yeah, it is very odd that Manchester City are being forced. I mean, this is the thing, Karl. This is the tyranny that Manchester City face. This small upstart dream of a club, living the dream, the underdog story of the century, Manchester City fighting against the evil that is the Premier League and the FA and the rich clubs to overcome it all. This is what Pep Guardiola has to do. And I think we all need to just take a moment and just realise that Pep is fighting the good fight there. And just because he was caught cheating multiple times as a player with failed drug tests, that doesn't mean he's partaking in cheating now as a manager with a baldy head.
Do you know what? I don't really care about Man City. I'll watch that game probably, Spurs-Man City, but only because it's a good game, and it's not going to be because Man City are the team most likely to win the FA Cup, I'll be honest. And whatever about the charges and everything else, it doesn't affect how Liverpool need to be. That's the bigger thing, isn't it? When you come to a cup or a league or whatever you're fighting for to try and win, or Spurs, if we talk about them, for example, because let's be honest, the FA Cup is really the thing which you'd say Ange has the best chance of winning this year or year or next year probably as well. I think all the teams who are rebuilding that way, trying to be really progressive, not being completely terrible like Man United, the FA Cup is probably the big one. I have said quite consistently, like it should be a really big thing that a lot of non-trophy winning teams go for. And I don't understand sometimes the mentality of teams who basically leave, even if they're not throwing the match away in the early rounds, certainly leave too much open to missed opportunities, shall we say. Like if you look at another one of the games in the same round, Fulham against Newcastle, like,
are you that person who has everything? The coolest merch and those must-have fan threads? Well, over at our Anfield Index shop, we've gone that extra mile when it comes to pimping up your Liverpool collection. From our popular range of bespoke design t-shirts, sweaters, hoodies and hats, to our signature edition mugs, prints and coasters, all provided with fast worldwide shipping. We have something for every red. We also stock official LFC merchandise and are licensed with the Premier League and UEFA to sell official iron-on shirt badges and sleeve patches. As a listener to this podcast, you can get 10% off everything with coupon code AEyePro10. Just head over to AnfieldIndex.shop or find us on Etsy by searching for Anfield Index.
Fulham would say maybe not a likely team to win a cup, but they're already in one semi-final. Like, there's no reason why they would not go all in on that match. You know, they're not going to get a Champions League spot. They're not going to get relegated. So why not go completely as much in on both domestic cups as possible? Like Newcastle, we don't even have to talk about. It's fast approaching a century of them doing nothing at all. So Chelsea, Aston Villa in another game in the fourth round. Like, there's plenty of matches there where teams should be fully on board with the lineup that they go in, even if it is at the expense of resting players for a league game before or after it. Like, it might be different for a Man City or whatever, but I think for too many of them, they've not done as well by themselves as they could and should have done in this competition.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Eric Ten Hag wants everybody to know that Manchester United are still fighting for 2 trophies. He wants them to know that they're still alive in the Premier League. But of course, that is just nonsense. And once they get dumped out of the FA Cup in the 5th round, when they play somebody decent, their season will come to a very disappointing end. You're right about Spurs. I mean, if I'm Ange, you've obviously got a real chance of top 4. And I think that is obviously going to be priority for the ownership. But I would imagine for Spurs fans who haven't seen their team win anything in what's going to be 16 years quite soon, surely the FA Cup should be the priority. And if Ange really wants to get the fans on his side and make himself a bit bulletproof there for a couple of years, winning the FA Cup and finishing 5th is probably a better outcome for that than finishing 4th and going out in the FA Cup 4th round. Now, like I said, the ownership would probably prefer the 4th place finish because that would lead to Champions League money. But I do kind of feel like Tottenham have always felt a little bit like, you know, that meme of the soldiers lined, like crouched behind a wall and there's a clown in the middle. Well, when people talk about the big 6, Spurs kind of always felt like the clown because they don't have the same type of history of success as the other clubs involved. Even, you know, it's obviously recent success with Chelsea and with City, but they have had immense amounts of recent success in the last 20 years or so, where Spurs haven't. And they've only won the couple of league titles, no Champions League. You know, they don't have that kind of success. And it feels like it is a big club that's desperately in need of a trophy.
But you know what? That is all correct, but it's all correct from a fan's perspective. And we know exactly what the hierarchy and the ownership and the structure at Spurs, the corporate side of things, thinks about that. They don't care. If they did, they would not have sacked Jose Mourinho days before a final. Like, they had the opportunity to win a trophy. They chose saving £1 million. That's what they did. That was the choice that they made, and that's what that organization is. Not the club, but that's what the club is itself as a business, as an all-round entity. That's what it is. It's not just about what the fans want. But Ange will want this. Ange will very much obviously want to, like you say, put his stamp on and buy himself a bit of breathing space for, you know, further improvements that do need to be made. And also, I would say, Right, Man City's obviously not an ideal opponent, but a cup match in general is probably well suited for him, his style, going all out
Yeah.
for the victory regardless of anything. It's, bit of a 90-minute shootout, and they love that. So again,
They
go
have
all
been a
in
bit
on
of
it.
a bogey team for City over the last 4 or 5 years. Regardless of who the Spurs manager has been, we have seen Spurs have success against City in, one-off league matches and whatever else. So, yeah, it's the toughest possible draw. Like, let's be fair. It is Manchester City. It's the toughest possible draw.
Yeah.
But I certainly don't think Ange will be in any way worried about it. I think he'll quite relish that challenge. And obviously, just quickly, they're recruiting in this January window. Timo Werner is in the door on loan from RB Leipzig with an option to buy for, I believe, about 15 million. Now, when you consider the fee he went to Chelsea for a few years ago and then what Chelsea sold him back to Leipzig for, this is quite the drop in value. And he's not played well for Leipzig. And he struggled badly this season. But I still think there's a player there. And he's only 27. I think he fits into a Postecoglou attack because of the versatility he has, because of his speed. He has good movement. Obviously, the knocks on him are he doesn't really seem to understand the offside line. And his finishing, which has been fairly dreadful since he left Leipzig the first time. I mean, you saw the numbers he put up at Leipzig, 21 and 32, 21 and 45, 19 and 37, and 34 in 45. As we've discussed before, much of that was playing left side of a front three. He went to Chelsea, they tried to make him a number 9, 12 and 52, 11 and 37. Now, last year he did score 16 and 40 for Leipzig in all competitions, but this season only 2 and 14. I kind of don't mind the deal at all for Spurs because there's no risk involved. If he doesn't work out, you just send him back in the summer. If he does work out, you're getting a good, at the very least, a good squad player at a good price. So I kind of like that deal. And it looks like the Radu Dragusin deal will get done. They decided not to pursue a deal for Jean-Claire Todibo and instead move on for Dragusin. Now, Bayern apparently are trying to hijack the deal for Dragusin, so maybe he ends up going there instead, but they've put in a strong offer for Dragusin, and I think he's a really, really good young defender. And I feel like if they could add him to the mix with Romero and Van de Ven, that would make them a fairly formidable defensive outfit, certainly in the middle. If they were to go to a back three with Dragusin, Romero in the middle, and Van de Ven on the left, that does seem to, like, to me, that in front of Vicario with Sarr and Basuma sat in front of them, you then unleash Porro and Adoji as wing-backs. All of a sudden, I would say they're one forward player to go with Maddison and Son, away from having an outstanding first 11. And they'll have pretty good depth behind that as well. They'd still need a couple more pieces, especially defensive depth. But I feel like that would be a hell of a team. Now, I don't know if Ange will do it. He hasn't used the back three massively in the last few years. He did apparently previously in Japan and in Australia use it a bit more. But I just think these are sensible signings. These are the type of signings that Spurs should be making.
So, how do we get AI right?
Well, we need the right volume of data and massive compute power. But with HPE GreenLake, we get access to supercomputing to power AI at the scale we need.
Search HPE GreenLake.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's pretty good addition. I think Timo Werner in particular, I think even if he's not like a really good source of goals for them, I think he'd be a very good tactical fit, like as an outlet, someone who can play basically right the way across the attacking line. You can effectively swap him in for any of Kulusevski, Brennan Johnson, Son or Richarlison and do a very similar job on the counter-attack, very similar job off the ball, very similar job in terms of which positions he picks up. And then it's more obviously about the combination play where some of them are going to be better than him, but maybe he allows them to be a bit more direct and vertical than, for example, Richarlison would do from the left-hand side or something. So again, it's really good for them in terms of depth. I remain steadfast in my belief that anything which stops Brian Hill getting more time on the pitch is a good thing for Spurs as well. It's just not a good fit for them, I don't think. So I don't think he'd be a massive success, but like you say, 15 million or so is basically nothing these days for a forward. So even if it's just a case of boosting squad depth and giving yourself a fifth option, that's helpful for next season into Europe as well.
Yeah, exactly. My best friend Fabrizio Romano has given it the here we go, so we'll wait and see. He's also given the here we go to Valentin Barco to Brighton, and he has talked up Jadon Sancho, loan to Borussia Dortmund. No option to buy. Dortmund obviously getting Ian Maatsen from Chelsea as well, so pretty good January bit of business for them to get two very, very talented young players who potentially could combine very well down the left-hand side for Dortmund. And I just want to see Jadon Sancho playing football. That's all I want to see. I think United have managed this whole situation with him horrendously, and I look forward to seeing him, back at a club that actually values him. Moving on to more Liverpool-based matters. Hello, I'm here to annoy you. I'm here to annoy you into listening to more of me and more of others on EPL Index. We don't just have the Anfield Index stuff. We've got EPL Index as well, which covers the entirety of the Premier League. And we have 3 podcasts and a whole bunch of really good writing on EPLindex.com. The podcasts are my own Two-Footed podcast, which is every day at 4 p.m, Monday through Friday, covering the whole league. We have A Tad Predictable, hosted by Tadiwa. You know Tadiwa, he does Anfield Index. He presents A Tad Predictable before every Premier League match week. And then Kevin DeVries and his crew on the EPL Roundtable, they're every week after the Premier League match week. So make sure you listen to everything we're doing on EPL Index and follow us there on Twitter at EPL Index. Thank you. Bye-bye. Trent Alexander-Arnold is set to miss, according to Pep and Linders, 3 weeks, and then we look again. Cy Brundish, who has suggested he thinks it will be more like 4 weeks, given the nature of the injury. This could not have come at a worse time, with Mo gone to AFCON, with Robbo and Costa Simicas already out, to now lose Trent. Creativity is going to be something we're going to have a bit of an issue with, I think, Karl, over the next couple of weeks.
Do you know what my thing to do here is, number one, get McAllister in a more advanced role. I think that's going to be really, really important for us. I think we have to do as much as we can to not make him be the only one protecting the defence, like whether it's a switch to a 2, whether it's still having him start as a 6, but the other 2 have a lot more emphasis on letting him get beyond and they have to cover for him, whether it's just a case of starting him as, let's say, the replacement for Szoboszlai on the right-hand side of the 3, because that is our entire right side, not just the individuals, but the setup, the way they interact with each other gone now. Trent, Dominic and Salah. That's a big thing to overcome. So I really think it's important that McAllister, obviously one, gets fully fit and sharp, but he's looked pretty good in the minutes he's had so far from a technical perspective. So I think it's important to get him on the ball in more advanced areas, let him be a ball carrier a bit more if he needs to, just let the adventurism go through him a little bit more. And some games it's okay to leave him as a 6 because the spaces will be a little bit deeper. They'll be in, slightly normal areas for him, let's say, as a number 6. But I think he's just going to be very, very important over, let's say, 3-4 games at the very least. And obviously it's going to need a couple of others to step up, whether that's not necessarily in creativity, but in effectiveness in the direct running and the one-touch play and in finishing. We definitely need one or two of them to do much better than they have done lately.
Yeah, for certain. We're going to have to become a little bit more ruthless as well. I think the move is to move to a double pivot, to be totally honest. I think if we go Harvey on the right of a 4 with Alexis and Curtis Jones as a double pivot and then Diaz on the left, I think that's the best way to find creativity and balance. Get Alexis into more advanced roles. Curtis is more than comfortable to sit in and kind of be the more defensive-minded one. He is the more defensive-minded one anyway. He's the stronger defender of the two. So I would be quite interested in seeing that. And then I think you can throw 2 from Darwin, Jota and Gakpo up front. We could ideally do with Gakpo stepping up and putting in some good performances. We could do it Ryan Gravenberch stepping up. Thought his sub appearance against Arsenal was promising, but we saw him have a really good sub appearance against City as well, and then he was garbage since then till now. But we need him now to step up because, like you said, we're missing. It's not just Trent and Salah; it is Dominic. And one of the things we were to talk of today was would you be rushing Dominic back? And to be honest, no, I wouldn't, because I don't want to risk further injury. And the issue with hamstring injuries is that if you have a bad one, they can reoccur and they can become a plague. And this seems to be a fairly minor one that he has. So I'd rather treat it with kid gloves and bring him back as slowly as he needs. Until he's 100%, I wouldn't even be considering having him on the bench because he's going to be too vital to us in the long run. And I know we're in a great position right now. We're top of the league. We're in a cup semi-final. We're in the 4th round of the FA Cup. We're in the EFL Cup. But we have to look long-term at this situation as well. And I think Dominic will have immense value to us over the next 6, 7, 8 years. It's not just about this season. So I'd be taking it handy with him and looking to get others in midfield like Harvey Elliott, like Ryan Gravenberch, to step up and make real claims and show that moving forward you can play a significant role in this team. So, yeah, I mean, I'd be taking it very handy with Dom, and I agree with you. I'd be trying to get Alexis more involved in the final third because we know the quality he has in those areas.
Yep, that'll be vital for us. I definitely think that the 2 semi-finals and the Bournemouth game, unless absolutely everything's perfect for him, don't even worry about it. Just make the others step up, basically give them the opportunity and the responsibility, and tell them, it's an away game against an out-of-form team in the Premier League. We need the 3 points. Somebody who's got to step up. That's your opportunity to stake your claim if you want to be a regular. And semi-finals speak for themselves. So there should be no shortage of motivation for the people who do come in. And then by the time the Chelsea game rolls around, that's then, I think it would be 30 days, would it, for Szoboszlai, which should be enough time to recover and overcome if it is only the minor strain. So that would be my preferred course of action, but I can well envisage that we'll at least see him on the bench against Fulham for the second leg or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's probably about right. And look, I mean, that would be over 3 weeks, so it is more than possible that he is 100% recovered by the time we play Fulham in that second leg. We might as well move on quickly then to tonight's game. Liverpool playing host to Fulham. Now, I think we've done really well to manage. I think Jurgen has done really well to manage the squad.
No. You take some credit. Come on.
I'm listen. You know me, Karl. I'm not one to brag, but I think he's done a really good job at managing the squad so far. I mean, there's certain players like Dominic, like Mo, who have played a little bit too much, but at the same time, he has used his resources very well. In this competition, obviously, We knocked out Leicester City 3-1. We went to Bournemouth and beat them 2-1. And then we knocked the ever-loving shit out of West Ham 5-1 at Anfield in a really dominant performance, which was needed at the time.
Yeah. They were very obliging, I still think, but we were.
Oh, they were. Good. Yeah, no, in fairness to Davy Moyes, he did us a solid on the night. But, we can only beat what's put in front of us. And now a Fulham team is put in front of us, who are certainly not to be overlooked. They're a solid operation. They sit 13th in the Premier League. In the EFL Cup thus far, they've knocked out Tottenham on penalties. They've knocked out Norwich. Then they knocked out Ipswich, which, I assume they're no longer popular in that part of the country. And then they knocked out Everton to make themselves popular on Merseyside. Or certainly on the red side of Merseyside, and beat them on penalties as well. But we're obviously a significant step up from the teams that they've played, whereas I would argue West Ham are a better team than them, even with some players out, because we were heavily rotated as well. I think it's a tough game, but one we should be winning. I mean, we should be beating Fulham, especially over two legs. So we have an opportunity tonight to test out some young players, to rotate a little bit, not too heavily, but a little bit. We obviously get a significant break after this game. So I do think Jurgen's going to go as strong as he can, bar one or two spots. So it looks like Caoimhín Kelleher will start and go. So let's start there. Now, Caoimhín's had a bit of a mixed season. Some very questionable performances early on, but then when Ali got hurt, he did seem to gain confidence and grow into the role a bit more and show a bit more of what he'd shown in the 21-22 season. So if we get that Caoimhín, it's never ideal to be without Ali for whatever reason, but that Caoimhín I think you can trust in a game like this.
Yeah, I agree. And look, I've said it a few times that I think it's quite natural with sub-keepers. Even you look around Newcastle, for example, Dubravka, when he came in, the first couple of games were not outstanding at all, but he's been pretty solid since. He's obviously got a bit more confidence from the rhythm. He's got a bit more understanding of the backline is behind and so on and so forth. And I do think that that's very, very natural. You also look at Kelleher in the run that he had. He played Fulham in that run, actually, and was not great for that game. That was the one I'd say he was underwhelming for sure, in the 4-3. But like you say, he did respond after that and play pretty well. The Sheffield United game, I think it was, wasn't it? He was very, very solid there. Lasky played well against. I think we can, like you say, rely on him to be good enough to put up a performance in this kind of match. And also, let's remember, he has been in this kind of a match beforehand. He was very, very much part of our League Cup triumph last time around. So he knows the setting as well as the game itself. That's not an issue, I don't think. And also, if you want to be completely brutal and ruthless, it's the first leg. So if we do get into a spot of bother and we are desperate to get to that final, then maybe you have to swap things out for the semis, second leg. But I think it's right that this competition, by and large, is his, to be perfectly honest. And I think that the importance of continually giving him game time might come in for the second half of the season. And we've already seen why that is this year when Ali was missing once. And if he's missing in March, April, as opposed to October, it's even more important that he has got games under his belt, that he has been able to build a bit of a rhythm, that he does have, what will probably be approaching a dozen appearances for the season by then, something like that. So I'm completely on board with playing him in this game and the second leg, to be honest.
So then the next big question is, who are our fullbacks in this game? Now, my expectation is that Joe Gomez plays, but Joe can obviously play both sides. So do you go Joe Gomez at right back and Owen Beck at left back, or do you go Connor Bradley at right back after a good sub-appearance against Arsenal and Joe Gomez at left back?
I think I'm going to be inclined to say keep Gomez at left back because I'm expecting that it would be either Harry Wilson from their right, who's going to be a cutting in threat, or Bobby Decordova-Reid, who is a fast outlet threat, and Gomez can do both of those. Whereas on their left, our right, is Willian, who, while a very good player, pace is not obviously primary amongst his attributes right now, and I think Connor Bradley can do that with determination and agility of the youth. Let's say, I think he'd be able to cope fairly well with him. I don't think we need to switch Gomez over to the right hand side to deal with the Willian threat versus what we get from Gomez on the other side.
Yeah, that's very fair. So Bradley right back, Gomez left back. I would be stunned if Virgil doesn't come back in for this one. So then the question is who partners him. Obviously,
and the answer is Kanate.
You think Kanate goes in?
Yeah, there's a big gap after this, so there's no problem with playing him, I don't think.
It's just a matter of how much is left in him after the Arsenal game, because he got through a sensational amount of defensive work in that game. I thought he was absolutely unbelievably good in that game.
Second half especially, I thought he was phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, he's just... I've said it before, the only thing that is a weakness for him is the fact that he does get injured. Because I think when you look at performance level, you look at talent, when you look at all his attributes, other than Virgil, I don't think there's a better centre-back in the league. I think he is the second best centre-back in the Premier League. And I think the only reason that's not a commonly held opinion is the fact that he does get injured. And if he could stay fit, I just don't think anyone else comes close to him. I think he's a match for Diaz, but he's got more speed and he's bigger and he's stronger in the air. I think he's a significantly better defender than Saliba. I think he's a better defender than Romero, who I think is a fantastic defender. But I think Ibu's size and speed advantage, Romero just can't match. And, I think Botman's outstanding, but again, Ibu has speed on him. I think he's better 1v1. Van de Ven is very good, but Ibu has aerial dominance on him. So I don't think anyone else matches what Ibu can offer us. I've said it before. I think he's the closest thing the league has seen to Jaap Stam in terms of that size, speed, 1v1 capability combination.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac, and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes, and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
So yeah, I mean, if he's good to go, then you go Ibu and Virgil. I mean, it's such a strong pairing. In front of them, I would go with what I said. I would go with Harvey right, Diaz left, Alexis and Curtis as a double pivot. I think that's the strongest group we have. I think it's a balanced group. I think it offers creativity. Diaz has looked much better in his last two performances. So I think you can capitalize on that. I think Harvey in that slightly more advanced role, but not into the front three, into a role I think that's ideal for him. I think you get the best of him. What would you do in midfield?
I would prefer that also, to be honest, whether you call it a double pivot or a 2-3-1 or a 4-4-2 or whatever you want. I don't really care. It doesn't make any difference when it's off the ball and all the rest of it. Those are the players that I would have. The only thing I would say that if we do line up in the 4-3-3, I don't think I would pick Elliott in midfield for this game. I'd leave him in the front line, which obviously then necessitates somebody else in the team, whether that's another run for Gakpo as a number 8, or whether you go for Gravenberch and Jones starting, and obviously Gravenberch then as the right-sided option. I think that latter one, Gravenberch as the right, McAllister 6 and Jones left, would be my preferred if we play a 3, which is what I expect us to do. But personally, I would go with the double pivot and let Jota basically roam off Nunez.
Yeah, see, that's what I would do as well. Now, if we do go 4-3-3, I would play Harvey in midfield. I'd go Harvey, Alexis, and Curtis. I know it's not ideal, but I mean, you're not losing anything defensively with Harvey instead of Gravenberch. I mean, it's not like Gravenberch is good defensively at all. So Harvey at least gives you effort, which Gravenberch doesn't always do. I think if we go 4-3-3, I want Diaz on the right of the front three. I thought he looked really good when he moved there against Arsenal. Then I'd go Jota through the middle and Darwin from the left. So if we go 4-3-3, that's what I want. Harvey, Alexis. Well, I'd actually prefer Harvey, Curtis as the 6 and Alexis as the left-sided one, but I don't expect Jurgen to do that. And then I'd go Diaz, Darwin, or Diaz, Jota, Darwin up front.
Yeah, that sounds about right to me. I think I put Nunez back through the middle for this one regardless, and then if it is the 4-3-3 and Elliott is in midfield, then I think from Diaz's showing down the right and where we get the best out of Jota, it should be Diaz right, Jota left, but whichever way around. So I suspect there'll be a lot of changing anyway.
Yeah, I do as well. You mentioned the 4-3 that we played against them this season. And obviously it was a very exciting game, but it was a mess of a game in many ways as well. And we just couldn't get out of our own way. But we did score 4 absolutely sensational goals in that game. Now, unfortunately for us, the scorers of 3 of our goals, Trent, although it was given as an own goal, but fuck that, it was Trent's goal. Trent, Endo, and Trent again, they're not there for this one. So opportunities for players to step up. The Fulham team that day, Leno, Tete, Bassi, Ream, 2 left-footed centre-backs just for Guy. Robinson at left-back. Reed and Paulinho in midfield. Wilson, Pereira and Iwobi behind Raul Jimenez. Heading into this game, from an injury point of view, they've no Tim Ream. Well, they're unlikely to have Tim Ream. Calvin Bassi is gone to AFCON. Alex Iwobi is gone to AFCON. Fodo Ballo-Touré, who never plays, is gone to AFCON. And Adama Traore has the world's longest hamstring strain. What would you expect from them? Leno obviously will play. Tosin and Diop at centre-back. And it's a Diop at centre-back. Seems like all they have left.
Yeah, I think theirs is pretty straightforward, to be honest. I think maybe one option to switch at right back and one option to switch on right wing. And I think that's it. I think Tosin and Diop and Robinson are all guaranteed starters. And then it's Castagno, Tete, and I think Castagno starts probably. Paulinho and Kearney in midfield, I guess. And then William, Pereira, and as I mentioned, Bobby Decordova-Reid or Harry Wilson.
Yeah, I think that Decordova-Reid off the bench does seem to be something that Silva likes because he has that kind of change of pace.
Yeah.
And then Jimenez up front, and obviously Jimenez has refound his goal-scoring touch. Also found his, lunacy factor when he leapt into, was it Sean Longstaff? Hip first. Prior to us playing them the last time, we talked about how poor they'd been in front of goal. And they obviously had scored 3, I think, in the game before we played them. Let's see. Yeah, they'd scored 3 against Wolves. But they were still one of the worst attacking teams in the league by the numbers. Then they score 3 against us. Then they get 5 against Forest and 5 against West Ham. But since then, they've only scored 2 goals in the last 4 games. But notably, both of those goals came against Arsenal in a pretty impressive 2-1 home victory, having gone 1-0 down. Jimenez equalises and then Di Cordova-Reid scores the winner. That win will give them quite a lot of confidence, I think, knowing that they've played Arsenal twice now this season, and they got a draw in the first game at the Emirates, came from behind to get that draw. Late goal from Paulinho. And then they get the win this time out. Mm-hmm. I think all things considered, like, they lost Mitrovic in the summer. They almost lost Paulinho. They almost lost the manager. But I think if you had said to them, look, come the 10th of January, you're going to be sitting 13th in the league. You'll be comfortably clear of the relegation spots. You'll be in a cup semi-final. I think everybody connected to that club would have taken where they are right now.
100%, and they'd be damn right to. Absolutely right to. Like, that, it's not that long ago they're, floundering or battling a bit against relegation, all that kind of stuff. So that absolutely would take it, and absolutely a right to be very, very happy with where they are. I think Silva's done a good job again this season. Like, they've had sticking points and they got things they need to improve, sure. But I think, first of all, he is solving them bit by bit. And secondly, I think that their flaws are either not as big as some of the other teams around them, or the things that they do better, that they do well, they do better than some of the other teams around them do their own things well. Whichever way around you want to look at it, Fulham are, I think, a better team than quite a few of them around that point of the table, to be honest. Like, they look a much more settled outfit. They've got a really, really clear idea of how they play. Their build-up is like pretty normal, but it's really well structured. Everybody knows their job. That's the important part. That's why they're, I think, a better team to watch, let's say, than Crystal Palace. That's why they're a more effective team at the minute than Nottingham Forest, for example. I think they're quite comparable to, whether you want to say, a normal Brentford without all the injuries, or Wolves this season, for example, not previous boring, horrible to watch Wolves. I think Fulham are in that kind of group at the minute. Like, and they're obviously many points better off than a Brentford or a Forest at the minute, because those teams have had injuries and Forest have had, well, some other issues. But I think Fulham are really,
nice way to put it.
they're really decent. I think they're like a dangerous team if they play well on their day, and if they don't play to their best, then you can beat them. Like, that's what they are basically. And you mentioned like the big goal scoring run that they went on there. They've only scored 4 in the last 6 since the second of those 5 goals in a row games. And one of the goals they've scored in the 4 out of the 4 in the last 6 was an own goal as well. So again, they are back into a bit of a rut. But there was a suspension in there for Jimenez, wasn't there? They had to play with Vinicius up front for one of the games, which is always a good guarantee of nothing whatsoever. I think, was it in the last game or the one before that, Moniz maybe picked up an injury as well. He just started to look like a little bit better in terms of his link-up play as well. So
he's been so unfortunate because he worked his way back.
He looks really decent in like little flashes. I've not really seen him put together a game as such yet, but he does look like he'd be a very, very good option for them across the course of the year.
Every time he sort of gets himself fully fit and he starts to play well, he seems to pick up a knock. And it's really unfortunate for him. Like, he was carried off a couple of months ago and he was in floods of tears because he'd worked his way back from injury. Now, thankfully, that turned out to just be something minor and he was able to come back, but now he's hurt again. And it's been a struggle for him. And he does look a very, very talented player. Like, he looks like he has most of the attributes you'd be looking for in a forward player. And it's a position they could desperately need, or that they could desperately use some help in. But look, we just have to do our job in this game. I think if we turn up and play well, we should beat this Fulham team and head to London for the second leg in a good position. So let's get ourselves out of here. What is your prediction for this game?
What I really, really want is a very comfortable first leg win. like really, really good, strong, like 3-goal win, something like that. That would be perfect. Not just for obviously the fact there's a semi-final and there's a final ahead to get to, but just for not having too many nerves, second leg, not having to worry 100% about rushing people back, all that kind of stuff. It would be nice. Well, obviously, it'd be very nice to put ourselves out of sight and win like 6-0 or something, but I don't think we can really rely too much on David Moyes making the team selection for this game or anything like that. So I'll go 2-0. I feel if we go 2-0 up during the second half, Fulham might just sort of sit in and say, do you know what? We're not winning. Let's make sure we don't get thrashed. Let's stay in the tie for the second leg when we go back home and see what we do then. So I'll go for 2-0 because we might also settle for that without, really going to the wall and trying to push all on. But I think it's very important we score first, to be honest.
Yeah, I do think it is vital that we score first. If they score first, I think it might just get a little bit messy for us. Now, I'm confident we're going to win this game because, we're a better team than them. We're at home. And given Lisa Marie is not in the chat, I'm going to go 4-1. Because I, like you, I want that 3-goal cushion. Because if we have that, and especially if Bristol beat Norwich, so it's Bristol Rovers in the FA Cup, that would mean that between the Bournemouth game and the Chelsea game, we really could rest players and have everybody fit and ready to go for Chelsea, or everybody that's going to be fit, properly ready to go for Chelsea. We could play, half a team away to Fulham and then the other half maybe in the Bristol Rovers game and not overtax anybody. And then we play Chelsea home and then it's the big one. Then it's the game away to Arsenal, where, hopefully we can just continue to cause floods in London, because it's always a wonderful thing to see Arsenal fans cry. Anyway, that is all we're going to have for today. Do you have anything you want to plug before you go?
I have a Mohamed Salah-related AFCON piece, which is up today ahead of that tournament starting, and Salah's game, I think, is on, I can't remember now, it's Thursday or Friday, whichever one it is. And if you want some non-football stuff, the reason I'm off to Mexico is the start of the Formula E season. So I have a couple of interviews and a season preview of that if you either already enjoy it or you would like to get into a new sport across the course of this year.
And will you be, do you know, actually, I've been thinking about this because obviously you go on so many holidays every year, and you claim that they're for work, obviously, Formula E and whatever else. I was thinking you should start a travel blog because you're getting to go to far-flung places, and you could just a small little bit piece about Mexico, things to do, things not to do, places to eat, places not to eat, stuff like that. I think you should make the most of your time and actually give back to the people who are helping fund this hedonistic lifestyle of yours.
I don't understand you, Dave. 1 minute you're accusing me of going on holiday. The next minute you want me to do more work. Which is it? Come on.
No, I just want you to do work, Karl. There's no more in this. I just want you to do work. Right.
Disgraceful.
We will leave it there. Safe travels.
Thank you.
Safe travels, Mr. Matchett. We shall be, no doubt, in communication while you're over there. Indeed. And I'm sure if you need any tips about Mexico, Guy has been there in the last year. And obviously, my good friend Damo, just back from Mexico, where he did document his trip on his Twitter. So if you haven't seen it, I believe, I don't know if it still is, he had the Aldi Bourdain as his Twitter bio for a while, which I'm sure was a compliment from some lovely follower. But yeah, give Damo a follow and have a look there. He might be able to guide you in the right way for some places to go in Mexico. We will see you next time, folks. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.
Sports Social Podcast Network.